On November 17th, licensed realtor Jerry Azam and prospective home buyer Anthony Edwards entered a property at 1093 Mardu Drive in the West Price Hill subdivision of Cincinnati, Ohio, using a lockbox key that Azam had authorized access to. A neighbor across the street, retired Cincinnati Police Officer Thomas Brangan, called 911 and told dispatchers he had witnessed two black men force the front door open. Officers responded to what was dispatched as a breaking and entering. The interaction that followed was captured on officer body camera.
32 forms the other side around the building. Now you're correcting that K9
8123 responding. I'm about 1 minute out. I copy. 3235 repeat.
Quarter row.
Where's Copy.
43 we're on the route.
Where's Knox at? I got movement in there. Address is 1093 Murado. Pete, they're right up there by you. Pete, they're right up by your window. I'll order him to come out.
Hey guys, come on out. Tell Knox come around front.
Knox! Hands up!
Hands up, what y'all doing?
Tell your friend to come out too. Hands up.
Come on out, man. We got a fucking appointment to see this out. Well, people saw you forcing your way in, that's why we're here. Oh man, I don't know. They just white people calling the goddamn police doing that bullshit.
Okay.
And I ain't even gonna buy the house. Being a good neighbor, if you see somebody going into a house, I ain't gonna buy the house. I ain't even gonna buy it.
How'd you just get in?
He a realtor.
Turn around. Till we can confirm. Turn around.
That's law right here. Only word.
Until we can confirm. Did you use a key?
Yeah, you use the key.
Where's the key at? Where at?
That's the only word. It's like
Okay. Have a seat.
We was white, they wouldn't have did this. So what are you talking about, man? That's some ignorant shit you're talking about.
You got some type of realtor ID on you?
I don't give a
Where's
damn
that?
if you're white or black. We're doing our job here. I didn't say you wasn't.
It's in your pocket or your car?
But that's bullshit, though.
Okay, you want
two black guys? Two black guys. I want to go to jail.
Where's the
Why were you going to jail?
Where's it at?
Break in, then you're not going to jail. Put me
Huh?
in handcuffs if I was white. That's called being detained.
what?
I couldn't hear you.
Where's your realtor ID?
That's it. You got anything sharp on you? No, you can take them to open the jacket up. I got ID in my pocket. Y'all ain't asked for the ID.
Where's your, do you have like ID on you? Which pocket, sir? You've got lots of pockets. Turn around.
Stretch your legs. Yeah, dude. It's amazing. It is amazing. There's been two white guys. Yeah, we would.
Well, we don't
I guess you ride along, you know what we do, huh? You know how we do our job, don't you? I mean, it's an incredible day, except down here. It's every day. This is the everyday shit.
The first thing to understand here is what Brangan's 911 call actually gave these officers and what it did not. In Navarrete versus California, decided in 2014, the Supreme Court held that a 911 tip can supply reasonable suspicion to justify an investigatory stop. Statements about an event made soon after perceiving that event are especially trustworthy because they leave open only a small amount of time for deliberate or conscious misrepresentation. Given that Brangan is a retired officer familiar with the neighborhood, a court would likely find his tip reliable enough to justify stopping and briefly detaining Isom and Edwards to determine what happened. That is where the lawful authority ends. The moment Isom identifies himself as the realtor and explains they entered through the lockbox, officers are no longer investigating a crime. They are investigating a credibility question. The Constitution does not allow officers to assume guilt and demand proof of innocence. The Fourth Amendment requires officers to consider the totality of what is in front of them, not just the first account they received.
Now you search this like we got drugs and dope.
Knox, I didn't search,
You got an ID on you somewhere?
pat between his crotch and stuff for weapons, but he's got an ID and he's got realty cards on. Who'd you arrange this with?
Are you the only two in there?
I'm cool. We're talking to him.
And you got into the key box?
Yeah. Play the race car. Okay, that stuff doesn't fly.
We got called and told that you guys forced entry, which is why.
I don't care.
So just stop.
I don't care. I mean, stop what?
Do you have an ID on him?
We talking.
Yeah, and he's got realty cards on.
Take a deep breath and relax.
Real opera. Not bad. I ain't know that. We're just thinking about it. Show me.
That's up to you. We had nothing to do with what you file and what you don't file.
I live right around the corner.
To your surprise, there are a lot of houses that we're broken into. When someone sees what they believe is that, we have to look into it. That's what we have to do. We have to look into it. We don't know who you are.
No, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about one of the callers you made the complaint. Saw us get the
That's not what was reported to us.
I understand what was reported.
Do you have the key to the lockbox on you? Is it in there?
Why we approach things a certain way. Your race has nothing to do with it.
Okay, which pocket is it?
I don't know. I haven't done it.
What Officer Valentino just did is not a Terry frisk. A Terry frisk established in Terry v. Ohio decided in 1968 where the Supreme Court held that an officer may conduct a limited pat-down of a suspect's outer clothing if the officer can articulate reasonable suspicion that the person is armed and dangerous is restricted to the exterior of a person's clothing for the specific purpose of detecting weapons. The Supreme Court was explicit. The officer must be able to articulate why officer safety was an issue and exactly what risk or danger to the officer or others existed. Officer Knox had already told Valentino that he had already checked for weapons and that Ism had ID and really cards on him. At that point, the basis for any continued search had evaporated. Going directly into Ism's pockets to retrieve items is not a pat-down. It is a full search. And for a full search, you need probable cause, not reasonable suspicion. The 911 call gave these officers reasonable suspicion to stop. It did not give them probable cause to search. Those are not the same thing. And this moment is where that line was crossed.
What about the little, shouldn't it be like in a little...
pocket somewhere.
Okay, well, I can't find it.
Back up, yeah.
Turn around, sir. Are you taking the other car?
Again, everything's recorded these days, my friend.
Bro, what are you worried about? You ain't about the house. You alright? Yeah, I'm just sitting. I know it's fun for us here, but we out of here. I'll call you. Okay. You don't want to go up there on that point up the street. I don't even want to live. Okay, no problem.
Sorry about that, sir. We can only go by what's reported to us, okay?
I thought I had it in my
Yeah, I couldn't find it, so...
Put it back on you? No, not yet.
Just left it inside. Yeah.
The release of Simon Edwards is the right outcome, but the way it happens reveals a second major failure. The investigation itself was negligent from start to finish. Officers never secured the scene. They allowed the complainant, the man whose account set everything in motion, to roam freely while treating the two men he accused as suspects who needed to prove their innocence. A basic investigative principle is that you secure all parties and gather information equally before drawing conclusions. These officers did not do that. They accepted Brangan's version first and filtered everything else through it. When they eventually learned that a key had been used, and no forced entry had occurred, they simply left. No interview of Brangan on camera, no report referencing that his account was factually wrong. No accountability whatsoever for a false 911 call that put two innocent men at gunpoint. Officers Valentino, Knox, and Pete get an F. Valentino drew her weapon before either man presented any threat, and the Supreme Court's standard in Graham v. Connor, decided in 1989, could not be clearer. Force must be evaluated against the severity of the crime at issue, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the safety of the officers or others, and whether he is actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight. None of those factors justified a drawn weapon at that moment. Valentino then conducted an illegal pocket search after Knox had already told her no weapons were found. Knox ordered the detention to continue long after a plausible innocent explanation had been offered and signed off on an approach that presumed guilt. Pete was present throughout and raised no objection. Collectively, these officers abandoned the neutrality that law enforcement demands, not because they were malicious, but because they took Brangen's word as settled fact and treated Imam's credentials as a lie to be disproven. That is not how investigations work. That is not how the Fourth Amendment works. On July 15, 2019, Ism and Edwards filed a federal lawsuit alleging Fourth Amendment violations and failure to properly train officers. The city of Cincinnati settled approximately 3 days later, paying Edwards a combined $151,000, issuing a formal apology and committing to implicit bias training for all city employees. When a city settles in 3 days, it knows what happened. Retired Officer Thomas Brangan gets an F. He is a trained law enforcement professional who watched 2 men enter a property with a key through a lockbox and reported it to 911 as a forced entry by 2 black males. He was wrong in his observation or wrong in his characterization of it. Either way, a man with police training who identifies himself as such to responding officers carries a degree of credibility that a random civilian tip would not. The Supreme Court's analysis in Navarrete v. California acknowledges that training and proximity to an event elevate the weight given to a tip. Brannigan's status amplified the harm his false account caused. He was never formally investigated for the call he made. He should have been. Jerry gets an A+. He was calm, cooperative, identified himself immediately, explained exactly why they were there, and maintained his composure throughout a situation that was humiliating, unnecessary, and unlawful. He did not escalate. He did not give officers a reason to take the situation further than they already had. And when it was over, he did not simply move on. He filed suit, forced accountability, and helped compel a major American city to implement systemic training on implicit bias. That is what civic courage looks like. Anthony Edwards gets an A-. Edwards was vocal in his frustration, and his frustration was entirely justified. Every word he said was accurate. But vocal protest during a detention, no matter how lawful the protest, carries real risk, and that risk is never distributed equally. The smarter play in that moment is the one Isom modeled. Say as little as possible, let the situation resolve and pursue every legal remedy afterward. Edwards did pursue those remedies. He deserves enormous credit for that. The minus exists only because in the street, the law does not always protect the loudest voice, even when that voice is completely right. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe to Legal Logic for police accountability analysis.